Stampscaping 101, we're going to do a quick, I don't know, I would call this like a bookmark or something like that. It's just a scrap piece of paper that I have. It's a dark cardstock. It's dark glossy cardstock. This one's a really deep navy blue, but you can find the black out there very easily. Just look up a black glossy cardstock. Now, what I'm going to be doing on this, you can do on any type of darker surface, okay? I'm just going to do it on this one. You can choose dark, I don't know, construction paper or something like that. You would just use the media, the according media. With this one, I'm going to be using the Brilliance because it is on the glossy. So the Brilliance inks were designed to dry on glossy cardstocks, but I've been using them on things like foils and the iridescence, which is kind of a bonus type of surface for me. Okay, now I can stamp this imagery light on dark just by doing white or silver or something like this on these images, and I think that looks really great. But one of the fun things that you can do, and which is a really easy type of process, is just to kind of fog the back so that you can stamp a positive instead of a reverse image over dark cardstock. So we can go, if I stamp this in dark right now, you wouldn't be able to see it because it's, basically going black over, super dark, almost black blue, okay? But what we can do here is we can go for some different types of surface values, okay, by adding the values in here. And this is a really fun process. You don't have to do this super smooth or anything like that. It's just, I don't know, when you stamp your imagery in here, it just, I don't know, it just all seems to make sense visually. It all just comes together. The background, even if kind of applied a little bit rough, I don't know. It all seems to read pretty well. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this moon in this area, okay? And so I'm going to stamp it in black, so I need to give a little bit of a glow behind here so that I can see where I stamp my image in black, okay? You don't need to do this completely because we can add another layer of white over the top of our imagery, which we'll do too, or we'll try to. I don't know. I haven't done all these things a lot, but I know what I'm kind of going for in theory and based on some of the other results that I've had. Trying some of these general techniques, but I haven't done a lot of things specifically. Okay, now we're going to have a lot of space up here too. I can just transition this. Maybe that would be a really great space for a quote. I was going to stamp this other image up there. Maybe I'll do a little bit of it, so I'll just go with a little bit of a tone up here. And I don't want to go too dark because, or too light, because I'll be stamping my quote up here in white, okay? So white over white, you won't be able to see it, but white over just a dull, kind of foggy, translucent layer of white will show up no problem. So we'll go like something like this. Again, you don't have to do it, real smoothly or anything like that. I'm certainly not, okay? But just, one thing up here is I don't want to go too light. So I just won't build it up very much. If I want to go lighter, then you have to kind of layer it in there, okay? Now, if you haven't done this before, and if you're using Brilliance inks, what you'll find is that, applying this on here is a little bit different than applying almost really any type of ink to a porous surface, okay? This is a fast-drying ink, but I can still move it around. See, I can, put my finger through it and just wipe it off completely, okay? Brilliance inks are designed to dry very quickly, though, on like a matte paper or something like that, okay? But on something like this, it gives you time to manipulate it. Now, that's why I say to people, you can stamp on non-porous surfaces with like a StazOn or something like this, but you cannot do something like this with a StazOn, like a StazOn white pigment, okay? These are just designed to dry really, really fast, so if I went like this, it would dry like right now. You can't manipulate it and spread it around and move it and, kind of get various um, degrees of layering on there because it just dries too fast for that. It's not designed for that. It doesn't make it an inferior ink. Like if I wanted to stamp an image on here, and have it dry instantly, this would be my choice right here. I can use the Brilliance too, but I'd have to heat set it. That being said, let's heat set this. I think that's enough for right now. Now this is probably going to dry a little bit darker than what it looks like. It's kind of hard to tell when white is dry. I'm guessing it is because black dries really fast, but then this one I can't tell some. Oh yeah, that's completely dry. I probably over dried it. This is bending a little bit. You just have to bend it back into shape a little bit. Okay, now this is going to be prone to, see, I put my finger there and it just came right off. So you definitely spray seal these types of things when you're done. Okay, so that is that. All right. Now, let's see. I'm going to, let's go ahead and stamp the Lakeside Cove large in here. Next, okay. You can go for like special effects. I can try this in like a silver or something like that. Silver over white might, it might be a really elegant touch. I don't know. Let's see if I have enough black ink on this. I probably should re-ink this. If you ever do like a lot of the techniques with iridescents, metallics, foils that I've been doing using Brilliance black, get a full-size pad. I mean, if you get those little cubes, you can, those would be perfect for testing and things like that and see if you like it. But I would probably use up all the ink in a little cube on one card. This is thick ink that we're working with here. So, our application of it is quite, extensive. I've been doing a lot of these, though, and I'm still on my first re-inker bottle, but I do re-ink quite often, okay? I'd say that same thing goes for the white, too. I don't think I have a link to the white re-inker in the description of this video, though. If I don't like the prices that I see, like on Amazon, I don't link to it, And that's at the time of the, that I found those links. I looked them up, but you can, look it up wherever and try to find the best prices for yourself. But yeah, re-inkers for the Brilliance. I say that for a lot of the pads that I use, but not as much as these ones. I re-ink this all the time. My dye-based pads, I don't re-ink quite as often, even though I use like a black pad a lot. Okay. All right, so see, that is laid down there, and see what that gives it a really great glow. I have some overspray from my splatter painting in there, but no big deal. Okay, now this is just the general area where my moon's going to go. But I mean, that looks pretty cool as is. Doesn't it look like a moon is kind of behind the clouds or something like that? But look at that kind of that vapor up there. And see, this is what I was saying. I added that white down there, and it wasn't in like some kind of perfect, smooth configuration or anything like that. You'll see where this moon comes into play now in terms of the, I don't know, whatever the the smoothness of application. It just, you don't need to have to do that with this. In this type of, technique. Is it foolproof? I don't know. I don't know if I'd say that, but, I don't want like a big, huge blob of white or something like that, unless you're going for some kind of, special look. Okay, on dark imagery, I would wipe sky imagery. I would kind of wipe the perimeter like this a little bit. Okay, now here's the thing. See this moon right here, wherever there's kind of a blank open space like that, that's where the light is going to be coming through from the background. So I made that area a little bit lighter right there. I could stamp it still lower and still, create a lighter spot still too, but that was kind of my general concept, is to make a little bit of an area a little bit lighter. And I'll try to get my moon roughly in that, that spot right there, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and there we go with the moon. But see that? There's no hard rectangle shape around the perimeter. Why is that? Because I took this and I just dabbed it off on the side where it's drier on the side. So it goes from wet to dry and darker to lighter. Okay, so you get those side areas there, just perfectly blending in with the surrounding area. But there we have that. Now it's a real dreary kind of moon like that. And I think that looks pretty cool as is, but we can lighten it up though. I can take a white paint pen and really lighten it up. I can lighten up that whole area if I want to. We'll tweak it a little bit and we'll see what comes out from that. All right, now I have this area up here. I'm thinking about going with, I don't know, just like a mackerel sky. We can leave it as is too, or I can add some additional clouds up there. That might be kind of interesting. I'm going to combine this. I haven't used this one in a while, and I'm not sure if I've used it with the cloud with moon before. I've done all kinds of configurations with my stamps over the years, but I haven't done everything. Okay, I'm going to wipe some of this off. In the interior, this one has kind of a horizontal kind of configuration. You've heard of mackerel sky. This is cloud alto cumulus is the technical term. I'm going to put this up here. This, I don't think it's going to show up that much because I didn't create a lot of contrast, but again, I plan on using this with some sort of quote stamp, I think. We can still change your mind with that. You can see it pretty good, I guess, in that little area like that. See that right there? Look at that. That's what's fun about kind of a glossy cardstock. It looks different from different angles like that. Look at that from a distance, And this isn't even foil or something like that. Super reflective. Okay, now that shows up a little bit stronger too. All of these images are showing up a little bit stronger than what they will look like when I heat set it, okay? And we're going to do that right now. When you heat set these, the black dries flat, okay? Now if we want it to look like this again, nice and glossy and rich of an impression, then what we do is we spray seal these with like a Krylon or something like that. Let me hold this up and I'll see if I can catch that kind of that drying aspect. You can see it's a little bit drier right there. It's different looking than underneath. Let's see if I can show it. It shows up on video. I don't know if you can see that. Here, let me try to show you right here in the Lakeside Cove. Let's get a good glare going here. Okay, you see how that's different there? There's the moon. You see there's that very flat looking black there. Okay, I like it better when it's darker, so I will kind of resuscitate that value of black with a spray sealant, okay? But It's good that it kind of dries that way in some ways because we can really tell when it's dry. You know, you won't overheat it or whatnot. Okay, so that is that. Now, what I like to do, now that we know where the image is specifically, let's go back in and bring out some of these lighter areas, okay? Now, on something like this, when you're using an applicator like this, I'm just using a cotton swab here. Use 100% cotton, okay? It's just going to be much more malleable, and you're able to get kind of the more the consistency you want. Like, see, this one's really quite frayed and loose. A cotton head. The acrylic ones are a little bit too tight, so you get this like really stiff-looking blobby ball, when you lay that down. But you want this one to be fairly light, and I'm using a very light touch here, okay? But see, I did get a big blob there, but see, I'm just staying with that area, and then I'm blending it out, okay? I just keep coming back. Think about it like being like a three-dimensional blob of paint, and you just kind of keep spreading it out a little bit, okay? Now, the drier my cotton swab becomes, okay, what happens is if you're dabbing it into a thicker application of ink down there, what you'll find is that you're kind of removing ink, like I am kind of removing ink right now. But you take advantage of that because sometimes there was too much of it here. So I just keep dabbing it and I'm removing it. Okay, now if I dab really hard, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the ink that I've applied, okay? Which maybe you need to do sometimes. I need to do it sometimes, but see, there's that lighter application right there, okay? Now let's do the same thing in these areas again. Okay, so down here, like say for example, I want to match that reflection a little bit. So I'm going to come in here with my cotton ball, okay? It's a wider area, so the cotton ball I thought would be better than the Q-tip, okay? And I'm putting this just right down here. If you look over a body of water, you'll see that, that reflective kind of vertical column of light, reflected light on the surface like that. And you can kind of spread this around. I'm kind of spreading it this way, like this. All right, see that right there? There's a nice column of reflected light. It doesn't match on the rocks yet, but I'll be putting that down there. And let's put some cloudy formations right up in here, okay? This is really easy, okay? You just take a paper towel. Everyone has, you all have a cloud template on you, okay? Now watch this. I have the billows kind of going up, so you have this rip right here kind of facing up like that. Okay, I'm just going to put this down here. Now here's the thing, you just want to do this. You want to do this very lightly, okay? So I'm just adding it down. See, that's all I've done right so far. You don't try to have it like instantly appear. I mean, it's pretty fast, but okay. See, I'm just putting a lot of this, like most of my cotton ball is on my paper towel. It's like, I don't know, 70% at first. And then I start moving it down a little bit. See, as it gets drier on here, there's less application, so I'm putting the drier application farther away from that top. So when I re-ink, top, or, right on my template. Okay, so that's what that looks like right there. Okay, so let's do, a decent amount of this right here. Okay, I'm kind of dragging. You have to get a feel for it, for what your cotton ball is doing. Mine does something different every time, so I kind of have to compensate a little bit. Okay, and you can also kind of move it around a little bit. You can go like this. It doesn't have to be like a plastic template, where you can't move it, okay? With something like this, see, it's real kind of organic. So you can go like this, and you can kind of move it like this as you're going, okay? Because clouds, they're just vapor, okay? I didn't do a really good rip. That's not a really great area. But what you do is after you do that, you come back in, and then you go kind of freehand, and you go below the cloud edge, but you also go above it like this a little bit, okay? So that you get the top edge of that cloud glowing really nicely. And it just kind of blends in everywhere. Usually don't do that with plastic templates because it's a really hard edge. And I do like the look of those stylized templates too. I just think it looks a little bit, it's real firm. It's a different look. It's a real, it's stylized. And that's not bad. Don't get me wrong here. Okay, let me go for a little bit of a better little looping billow. Like this. Okay. So you can just add a little bit like that, and, that could be it right there. Oops, look at that, where I totally scratched all that off. Didn't just go back in and fill it in. Okay. See, maybe it even looks better like that. Okay, and let me kind of blending some of this in. It's good to kind of oscillate the, real firm edge with kind of a more lighter, kind of organic, misty one. So what we're doing is we're varying our textures around, okay? All right, let's see. Here's my paper, my cloud template, making cloud template 101. There you go. Ripping like this. You can just kind of go in there and rip accordingly. Isn't that fun? Okay, so there, I think that looks like a pretty good. Okay, now see, I was going like this for underneath the moon, because the clouds are billowing going up, but you go like this way, okay? You have the billows coming down over the top of the moon, right? Because these clouds are going to be underlit when they're over the moon. There's a big blob of paint right there. Paint, ink. I think of pigment inks as paint a lot of times. I almost think they're more paint than ink. See that right there? Those ones are being underlit. Okay, now let's blend them in. Let's see. Kind of under the moon, under the cloud. Back over it. I smooth this area and I kind of taper it in somewhat. Okay. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of this mist over these rocks too. What you're doing is you're kind of mimicking down here on this Earth's surface, the water, kind of what's going on in the sky. Do you see the continuity between land and sky when you do something like this? You're bringing that same texturing, which is, vapor, illuminated moisture in the air, down on the surface right here. Okay, now let's see. Let's do a little bit of detailing. You see these clouds right here? Okay. You can see my cloud design where I've designed all these little areas within the cloud. I've done these tonal ranges within the cloud, okay? Now you can see where there's dark area right there, okay? You might be saying, hey, I don't see it. What are you talking about? Just go along the edge right here of that darkness that I've put in there, okay? Like this. Okay. One of the things I like about, I like hearing occasionally, a lot of times people say, okay, they started doing Stampscapes, and see, I'm doing these tonal types of exercises, and it's all in the designs themselves, so sometimes when people start doing, using Stampscapes images, especially skies, they become much more active kind of observers of the sky, clouds, moons, clouds, around moons at nighttime. They think, oh, there's something that I want to capture in the next scene that I do. Okay, and that's always great because I think there's a residual type of effect of stamping. They become kind of more of an active observer. Which becomes there's just more to enjoy than you might have observed before, but you become kind of more of an active observer of those things like night skies in terms of kind of evaluating, saying, oh, look at how the light is coming off of that cloud or this cloud. You become much more nuanced in your kind of perceptions of things, natural things, I should say. Everyone enjoys, sunset, but someone might look at it differently and say, oh, look at that transition of magenta and blue is there. You know what I mean? Not that you're like totally analyzing things like robotically, but you're just seeing more things. Okay, so here I'm kind of bringing out some of those tops of some of these clouds a little bit more, where they're capturing a little bit more of the light. You can do this right down here. I can bring in more light to my moon. I think I'm going to use some of my white paint pen because that's really fun to use in a piece. Okay, so I'm making my moonlight lighter so that when I add in my white paint pen detailing, it just makes more sense. You can't have the reflected little highlights lighter than the light source that's creating them, okay? All right, so in here, I'm going to put a few little highlights. See, these really stand out quite a bit, so I'm not going to do too many. But see, I put more in the lighter area, which is closer to my moon, okay? See this cloud right here? It's reflecting a lot of that light. I should do a lightning storm with this type of technique on this dark paper. Okay, and now the clouds underneath the moon are being top lit, okay? These ones are a little bit more side lit to the side of the moon. Okay. Not going too much, because we'll keep it a little bit more subtle. It has to be because now I could just color this whole moon in white, and then we can go, to town with this, white paint pen, go crazy with it. But everything's a little bit more subdued here. I'm getting a white all over my finger here from going into this, but it doesn't matter. You see what I mean? These things are really kind of, I don't know, user-friendly. Okay, now on these rocks, see, there's more light right in the center, but see these rocks as I move out towards the edge, maybe there's like a tiny little dot of lighting on it. And then in the water down here, I can put kind of more, I do this in lines like this. There's like striations in the water. Okay, you see that right there? It kind of brings the scenes to life, in my opinion, doing something like that. Okay, so let's hit this. Now, what I was telling someone on Facebook the other day was I mellow these out sometimes, especially when I'm working on things like darker surfaces. Sometimes that white is a little bit too obvious. It just stands out too much, so I mellow it out a little bit. So what we're doing here is we're bringing the background lighter to the lightness of the white paint pen, okay? So that it's not so, there's not so much contrast between that white dot and the background. Now, don't do it over everything. You can just put a little bit of fog over some of it, but, leave some of the dots out as is so that you get a contrast between kind of a less contrasted dot and a more contrasted dot. Okay, so you have some dots that are more in the light white area, and some of them are more in a bit of a gray area. I don't really have any dots against like black or the white of the paper. Okay, so there that is like that. Look at, there's a lot of mood in that, isn't there? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in some foreground. You could stamp this in the beginning, okay? But if I do that, then if I want to put some, white pigment ink in that area, and if this was already stamped out, I would get the white over the top of this, you see what I mean? Where now, is if I use it right now, it's more right in the foreground, okay? All right. See that right there? How that really stands out? Look at that against that background. When you go like this, it's pretty subtle because it's mostly black against black. And again, this is going to kind of dull out, but this is how dark it'll be if spray sealed, okay? All right, let's see. A good quote stamp might be something, one of my moon ones, Moonlight. Lie on your back and look at the stars. I don't think so. The sky is the daily bread of the eyes. Huh. When we think about that, we're thinking of usually, I don't know, for me, something like, like a sunset or twilight. But that might be kind of interesting, too. And this is kind of a quiet, let me take a look here. I need the printouts for all these quote stamps. It would be better. I have a lot of space up there, too. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to pick out a good one. This might be kind of interesting. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. You might have kind of a real subdued, kind of mellow spirit, mysterious. That'd be kind of interesting. In the woods we return to reason and faith. I just used that one, but that one's a little bit too big. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. It's a little bit, I don't know. I wouldn't say unconventional, but I tend to think of this one as one of those scenes that I do a lot more color with. Okay, I didn't need to pause the video. Okay, so, alright, I should order my other Brilliance pad. I'm going to have one pad just for impressions and one pad for inking up my cotton balls and stuff, because I do get cotton all over this. I just take a credit card, old credit card or something like that, and scrape it, gift card, and you can scrape it right off and it comes off. You don't need to do that. But if I had a separate pad for my impressions, then I wouldn't need to worry about it, because I have a little bit of like cottony fibers. Let me see if I can show you here. See those little cotton fibers on there? Alright, I just touched that. I think I just removed some ink. Alright, let's see if I can get this reasonably straight. If not, I always say, who cares? Oh, yeah, this is done in one of the things I forgot is you can do this too. You can stamp this out on this type of dark background. You can do your foregrounds in like white over this, and that always looks kind of interesting. It's a little bit more frosty and kind of wintry. You can do it in silver, maybe. Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. Isn't that kind of fun? Okay, so that is that. I'm tempted to... Oh, here, I almost forgot to do this. Um, let's take another cotton ball, okay? And I like to come... This is like fine-tuning right here. I'm going to take some black now, and I'm going to go in the four corners. I don't know if you need to on this one, and if you're working on black cardstock, then absolutely you won't need to do this. Well, maybe you can kind of tone in some of your white in here. See this white in here? I mean, it looks fine as is, but this is kind of a little bit of fine tuning. I come into that with some black. Okay, I don't want to go in like real harsh or anything like that, but I can tone out some of these clouds a little bit, and it's kind of like shaping them in a way. Okay. Gotta be careful that, see, I'm just barely doing anything like that, okay? But if I keep adding it in some areas, it'll just kind of round into form a little bit. If you can't see anything that you're doing, that's usually a pretty good place to start, okay? You don't want these marks to be showing very much. Okay, now I'm going into the Lakeside Cove a little bit. I'll have these shadows in here a little bit more. Maybe that little white area in my water's a little bit too extreme, so you can just go in there with a little bit of black, but what you're really, in a sense, doing is you're adding gray, because you're adding a very light application of the black, you know. Like, I wouldn't call that black. It's more of like a, I don't know, it's like a 5% gray after, you know, several taps, okay? So, think about it like that. Everyone wants to rush, okay, and then they think, oh my god, that's a really hard process. Look at me. Okay, there is nothing that you can do to mess this up if you don't have very much ink on here. So just always have very little ink on your applicator, okay? So that, you know, it becomes a like anti-precarious process if you just have a little bit at a time, like adding the white, you know, we're just adding a little bit at a time, but you're just doing it in repetition like that. That way, see, I don't get like a whole lot of mistakes. I get a lot of unintentional marks sometimes when I'm trying something for the first time. It's like, oh, that thing happened, but you know, when I'm doing stuff like this, there is nothing that can really happen. Now, I'm not taking, you know, being uncareful and tapping this over my moon or something like that, but, you know, otherwise it's pretty easy to do. And not precarious at all. Because I just kind of eliminate those types of processes like that. But anyways, look at that. You know, isn't that kind of a fun little bookmark or something like that? I mean, this could be just, you know, a slimline card, too. But look at the moon of this piece right here. You know? And this, you know, is a pretty decent sized piece. I know it took me like, what, 35 minutes or whatnot. It's not too bad. And then what I'll do is I'll heat set this and I'll spray seal it. Maybe I'll do that right now. And I'll come back and format this as a card and we'll see what this looks like. This might even look good with like a silver frame around it. What do you think? Yeah, we'll take a look. All right, we're formatted here. I used a piece of the real reflective mirrored chrome silver type of look, but look at that right there. I love this type of paper here. Stamp on it too, but I don't know, I thought it worked pretty good with this dark blue. If this was black too, it would look fine. I mean, that's what it would look like if it was black. You can barely tell that this thing's a little slight tinge of blue. It's by Chrome Coat, and they went out of business years ago, but even before that, they discontinued their super dark kind of navy blue surface. I got it on sale over at Kelly Paper on the clearance rack one time. But anyways, you can tell this is, you know, an example of black on black. Okay, but the things that you just have to do behind the black in order for these images to show up. It is kind of dramatic when you stamp out something like this in, say, silver over black or metallics or even white over black. Okay, that's a certain look to it. But if you just want to go kind of more straightforward, then just do that little bit of fogging in the background stamp over it in black. You can even leave it at that. It had a certain type of kind of eerie feel to it, especially with the very dull, dark light source, okay? But if you want to kind of zip it up, you know, with a little bit of extra or a lot of extra impact, then add additional white tones over the top. So you're sandwiching black in between white, so you go white, black, white, okay? And of course, this was, you know, kind of the, the contrast that you would have if I were just to stamp this black over dark. But you can also put in just a little bit of that foggy kind of, you know, white in the back. You see, you can see that little bit of white in the background right there. Look at that extra little, look at the depth right there, right in there, just with that little bit of white that was laid down in there. And then you can see my alto cumulus cloud in the background there. But look how rich that is. But see, that doesn't really compete with that white right over the top of it. So you can do a really dull, you know, application of that white where it's, I don't know, like a 95% gray or something like that. And then you can come in over the top of it, you know, with, you know, your white ink and just stamp over it. So there's a lot of different options here. Like trees or something like that would be perfect for like a Christmas card or something like that, or a Christmas tag. This would be great for a, I don't know, I call it, it's a slimline card, but even people use it as a bookmark too. I'd probably do a different saying or something like that for a bookmark. I don't know. But whatever it might be, I think it's really fun. You can even punch a hole through that, you know, and that'd be kind of fun to hang from something or put, you know, like a ribbon or bow through it or whatnot. Or you could, you know, we could have angled that up and chopped that off before we formatted it, you know, this rectangular size, and it could have been more of like a formal tag or something like that on there. So all kinds of different possibilities. But wouldn't this be a really fantastic setting right here, and process and look for like a lightning bolt over the, you know, this lake. I'd probably do the lightning up here. Then I would stamp it upside down in here for reflection. But I think that would be a really great looking kind of light and glow in the background. All right, so anyways, hope this was came in handy for you should you be wanting to kind of do a dark or a black on dark application and employ these, you know, really simple techniques on here of sandwiching your contrasting inks. And you can't get more contrast than white and black. I like it on colored papers and stuff like this, the foils, because the actual color of the surface takes care of all the color for you. Now in this case, like I said, you can't get this dark blue anymore, but you can do this on things like foils. Red foil would be really interesting in this too, wouldn't it? Okay, so anyways, if you have any questions, drop me a note in the comment section. I hope you give this a try. And if you do, and you feel inclined, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, thanks for watching.